Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 227, and that's a show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show, and let's get started. We go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week and everything in between. So number 18 for me, even though this was a very light week for a lot of people because it was the 5th week for Wednesday, somehow I still got 18 books. Anyways. Going on to number 18, which is Avengers issue 678, which is part of Avengers No Surrender. And it's just, I don't know, I haven't been able to get into this event. I just feel like this issue had a lot of action, and I really couldn't get into the story arc as a whole. And I feel like the character moments don't really shine here. It's hard to really find everyone's voices with this arc so far, besides Voyager, who we've seen a little bit from in the arc, and I feel like that's been the better part of this story arc. So, overall, I gave this issue 2 stars. The ending was okay, even though I feel like it's obviously not going to really connect to many things, because Human Torch is fine in Marvel 2-in-1, so obviously it's kind of that cliffhanger that is probably not gonna lead to anything much in the next issue, but we'll have to wait and see for the next issue. So yeah, Avengers issue 678 gets 2 stars for me, and that is number 18. Moving on to number 17, which is Marvel Knights Metal issue 5. So the 2 big events for this week, I haven't really been liking. Metal, it just feels like this has been going on forever, and for me, I feel like it's either you like this book or you don't. There's no real middle ground with Metal, and I just haven't really been invested in this world. There's small moments I like about it, like seeing Martian Manhunter. I like Diana picking up Hawkgirl's, not staff, but whatever they call it, but her thing. I like that Diana picked that up. I thought that was cool. But those are all very small moments in the over-encompassing story that I don't really care for. So for me, Metal issue 5 gets 2 stars. I'm trying to see it through just because it's almost over, but I haven't been loving Metal. So that's number 17. Moving on to number 16, which is the Invincible Iron Man, the Invincible Iron Man issue 596, and with this issue, it's a very slow burn with the search for Tony Stark. You do see Tony for a glimpse in this issue, and that's definitely the better part of the issue, but I didn't really feel the emotions between him and his father as much as I feel like I should have. And then the Riri stuff I didn't really care for. I wasn't very invested for the Doctor Doom stuff. So artwork was good, but other than that, I just feel like there's so much padding here and stalling until Brian Michael Bendis finally ends his Iron Man run. And I might be saying that a couple of times this week, so, because there was a lot of Bendis books out. So Invincible Iron Man issue 596 also gets 2 stars, and that is number 16. Moving on to number 15, which is, number 15 is The Silencer issue 1. So this is a new book from the Dark Knight's Metal, the New Age of Heroes lineup that they're having. And with all the New Age of Heroes, at least most of them, I want to try it out and give the first issue a try. I did the same with Damage. Didn't give me enough for another issue, and same for The Silencer. I'm not a big fan of John Romita Jr.'s artwork. I feel like it's really bulky, and I just don't really like his style very much. And even though this does remind me a lot of Kick-Ass, which was cool, and that's the only style I really like from him was Kick-Ass, because it's the only style we really know from that series, and it kind of worked for the gritty world it was going for. But here, it was really hard to kind of get into this world because of the art style, and I like the character, but not enough for it to warrant another issue. So, once again, not really feeling attached to these new heroes yet. We'll give a few of them a try. I know I'm going to give the Terrifics a try, so we'll see if I hold on to that one. But The Silencer issue 1 gets 2.5 stars. Alright, so we are moving on to number 14, which is The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows issue 15. This issue is just kind of really cartoony. Even the artwork is getting very cartoony. It has a nice cliche message where we get to see Spider-Man's daughter. She doesn't really see, she sees the superhero world in black and white. She says, well, that person's evil, they're always going to be evil. And Peter and MJ teaches her that no, sometimes there's not complete evil, and she learns that through the Lizard. So it's very much a weird one-shot issue. I know it's continuing from last issue, but it feels more like a one-shot issue with this whole Lizard thing, because the Lizard entered with the last issue, and now we're gonna go into this other Annie Mae storyline for high school days, which I'm interested in. But yeah, it kind of felt filler-ish in a lot of ways, and kind of cartoony, and stuff we've seen a million times, I feel, even though it was a cute message. So, The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, issue 15, gets 3 stars, and that was number 14, I believe? Yes, so number 13 is The Beauty, issue 19. And I feel like this book has been improving with its non-detective storylines. They love going into different directions with this book. But I like this podcaster slash investigative reporter, where he is learning a little bit more about the beauty disease. It feels a bit more connected to the other storylines compared to what we've been seeing with these other side stories. So overall, The Beauty for me gets 3.5 stars. I am not in love with this one as much as I like the detective storyline, but at least it's getting us closer to learning more about this world. So I gave that 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 12, which is The Defenders, issue 9, which I was disappointed with because I love this cover and I was so excited for this cool street level female team up, but in the end it really was only shown in the last 2 pages, and maybe we'll see more of them next issue, but I was a bit disappointed that we didn't really get to see that. And also it's just such a slow burn. Again, going back to Bendis kind of padding his endings here with Marvel, you really feel it with the Defenders. I'm kind of tired of the Diamondback versus the Defenders storyline, because it's been going on for 9 issues and it really hasn't progressed much. But I do love David Marquez's artwork here. Definitely the best aspect, especially since this is a more action-driven issue. So The Defenders issue 9 gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 11, which is Deathstroke Annual, issue 1. So I did read this digitally. I will be getting this physically next week. But yeah, Deathstroke, I didn't love the artwork here. I feel like it wasn't as sleek as it usually is, which is why it's a little lower. But the story is interesting. I love the supporting characters here. That's the part I love about Deathstroke more than Deathstroke himself. And I feel like it's always at the top of its game when it's focusing on the team. And that's what it does here, especially with Power Girl, where we see in the end that she might have taken her life, but now we actually see she's like in this limbo with the other Power Girl, which is an interesting connection to the New 52 within a DC Rebirth storyline. So I like that. I'm excited to see when and where they're going to pick up this story. And just seeing the Defiance team breaking apart. I like these supporting characters a lot. So I gave that 3.5 stars. Again, it's lower mostly because of the grittier art style we get to see here. Now moving on to number 10, which is Jessica Jones, issue 16, which is probably the best Brian Michael Bendis finale we've been seeing so far compared to Spider-Man and The Defenders and Iron Man. This is definitely the best because we get to see a villain that is obviously a formidable foe for Jessica, which is Purple Man, and you really get to see the dark side of him and Jessica trying to not run from him, but trying to figure out how to defeat him, as she's also going up against her best friend. So yes, this is a slow-paced issue, but I feel like at least there was more character moments here compared to the other Bendis storylines we got this week. So Jessica Jones gets 3.5 stars, and that was number 10, I believe. Yes, so number 9 is Jean Grey, issue 11, which is the final part to, or the epilogue to Phoenix Resurrection and the last issue of the Jean Grey series. And I liked it a lot in the beginning, where we get to see Jean kind of being thrown into these different worlds. I love the opener where she thinks she's in hell. But then, as we get along in the issue, I'm like, alright, I kind of get the point. She's being thrown, you know, she's defiant by the Phoenix. And then the end is a little disappointing because we get a cliffhanger that you don't know if will be resolved, that she meets the other Jean Grey that obviously has been involved in Phoenix Resurrection, the original Jean, and the series is over, so we don't really know where this is going to continue. Does X-Men Red really have time to continue it? So that leaves you a little bit on a disappointing note. But overall, I had fun with it. I really do like Hopeless's voice for this book, and the artwork is solid throughout. I do like the art style. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. Jean Grey, issue 11. Now is number 9. Alright, moving on to number 8, which is Long Lost, issue 3. I've been enjoying this series a lot. I really like Frances and Piper's voices, that they're sisters, but why don't they have the close relationship that they do? There's this mystery that something happened with their childhood, and that their mother is in a mental hospital, so there's a lot of interesting stuff thrown at you, but in a unique pacing that it's not all information put into your lap. They are doing a really good job at, again, pacing this mystery and learning about this world. This issue has a lot to do with learning about the world. You get to see some of these creepy monsters coming, or creepy people, I would say, mystical people coming out of the woods, and Frances and Piper trying to get out and just try to find their aunt. So I love the artwork, love the grayscale here. I would have liked a little bit more from Frances and Piper, because their characterization is really what makes the book for me. So overall I gave this 3.5 stars. That was number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Detective Comics Annual, issue 1, which is definitely you know, higher than I've been giving. I was just noticing that they did like the fold up of like a poster for the cover. I thought that was really cool. I just was noticing that detail. Anyways, so with this issue, we get to see a bit more emotion from what happened with last issue with Clayface, which he was shot. So we don't know if he's dead, we don't know what's going on with this character. And this, we get to see a background with him. Now, we already kind of knew Clayface's origins, so I won't say there's anything necessarily new here, but I like the way that Tynion does it. I like that we learn about his father, and we get to see a different view of what a monster is. And we get to learn a little bit more about the first you know, the victim syndicate that we've been seeing with the series for so long. So I like this one. I like the kind of homage to old films and old monster films. So I'm going to give Detective Comics Annual issue 1 4 stars. And that was number 7. Now moving on, and I dropped one, of course. Always drop one. Anyways, moving on to number 6, I believe, yes, which is All New Wolverine, issue 30, which really puts a nice bow to this Orphans X storyline, where Laura reveals to everybody that she is also an Orphan X. She was a weapon and was used by those people, by the people that created her, to do these bad things to these victims. And I love that there's this little joke that the Orphan X is actually a democracy, and that Gabby points that out, and they end up voting, saying, yeah, Laura, you're right, let's team up, and you can defeat the people that did this to us. So I like that as an ending. I thought it tied things very nicely, and I really like the touching ending by the end, where Laura is able to say goodbye to her mother, and it's really Daken who says, we have to get the body of Sarah and give this to Laura. She deserves this. Overall, it's a really heartwarming issue, and I thought a good conclusion to Orphans of X. So I gave this one 4 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is the Flash Annual issue 1. Now, I haven't picked up the Flash in a really long time because I just kind of dropped off the series, but I knew Flash Wars was starting, and it was a lighter week for at least DC, and I said, you know what, let me give this a try, and I really wasn't disappointed. The only thing I will say, the artwork in the beginning was one of the reasons why I dropped Flash. I don't really like that style, but then it got to this cleaner style by the middle, and I liked seeing Wally's friend again. I've read a couple issues, back issues of that character. I believe her name is Frances, and I liked Wally kind of discovering he knew his past, but she's discovering their past, and by the end she doesn't regret it. I really like that formed friendship again with this issue. And then there's a nice cliffhanger about the Flash museum, so it leads you into the event really well, and I'll definitely be picking up the rest of the Flash, at least Flash Wars, to see where this is going, because I thought this was a really good start. So I gave that one 4 stars, especially if you're a Wally fan. I think you should pick it up. Moving on to number 4. which is Hack and Slash Resurrection issue 4. I've been really liking this series. I've been a big Hack and Slash fan for a while and a big Tim Seeley fan, and I think that Howard has been doing such a good job at bringing her own voice to this book. And with this issue, you do get a lot of answers about this villain who finds out that Cassie is actually a slasher, which it was just a really interesting kind of turnaround. Of course, the final girl becoming a slasher I thought was a really interesting twist there. We'll see how that ends up playing out. But most importantly, what I liked here is the relationships in the dynamic, where we get to see Vlad and Cassie kind of figuring out their relationship after Vlad is returned. What does their friendship look like? But most importantly, at least what I enjoyed the most, was Cassie and her girlfriend. Because Cassie is definitely in this I won't say love, like-hate relationship with his girlfriend, with her girlfriend. And I really like the interesting dynamic they still play with them, that Cassie doesn't want to let her go. She's still having fun with her girlfriend, but at the same time is angry with her. So I really like that dynamic. I thought Howard played that very well, and I'm looking forward to seeing more with this character, with the girlfriend that was introduced in this book, because I feel like she has a lot of layers, and it's only been 4 issues. So hopefully she's a character we get to see more of. The only disappointment, and the reason why I couldn't put this higher, is the art style. I think it works well with this horror tone, but there's a lot of times where faces feel a little bit too abstract with its proportions. So, especially when you first open the book, I'm like, okay, gotta kind of get used to that. So, but as you read it, you kind of do get used to the proportions we get to see here. Anyways, I give this issue 4 stars, and that was number 4. So that was a lot of 4s for that number 4. Alright, moving on to number 3. Which is Outcast, issue 33. So, this issue actually reminded me a lot of a Walking Dead storyline. And for some reason, I feel like that's a really good thing. I think in most cases I'd be like, oh, I've seen this in The Walking Dead before, like, why are you kind of trying to tell the same story? But here I feel like finally Outcast kind of finds its identity by taking things from The Walking Dead. So we get to see this war happening, and Kyle realizing that he's part of this war. I mean, I think because Rick and Kyle are very different protagonists, where Rick is ready to go, but Kyle kind of needs the support of his wife, Allison, to say, hey, this is war. We're gonna go to war, and I mean we. And I like that it's the supporting characters that Kirkman has built up really, really well being part of this team, and that's why I feel very Walking Dead family group going on. But also just seeing the female characters kind of stepping up here. Like I said, Allison, love that scene, and Megan, where she kind of goes on her own and she talks to the young girl that was trapped for a while, and they go on this run, which was another thing. I'm like, oh, they're going on, they're trying to get supplies, and she ends up getting into a car accident. So that was a really good cliffhanger. But yeah, overall really solid issue, and I hope it continues to go in this pace and interesting direction. So Outcast issue 33 gets 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Spider-Gwen, issue 28. I really enjoyed this issue. I will say Matt Murdock telling his whole life story and taking time in his life to do so was a little cliche, but I really like the story that comes out of it, where we get to see kind of this interesting new layer within Matt Murdock's origins that we know, and how he was led into the Hand. So I really like that, and why he feels so connected to Spider-Gwen. Now, the other aspect I really love about this book is Gwen herself. It's actually only about 5 pages in this issue where we get to see Gwen interacting with her loved ones and saying, hey, I'm Spider-Woman. And what I love about this, and if you guys know me and been following me for a long time, I love the secret identity reveal. It's one of my favorite tropes in comics. I live for it. So to see it done in a different way here was really nice, where we get to see Gwen is not really revealing that she's Spider-Woman. Everyone kind of knew that already. She's revealing a darker layer of herself that has been building since she's been bitten by the spider, but especially within Gwenum, and her friends realizing that, and do they accept it? And I love the line by Ben, where it's a very Ben moment where, her friends are like, no, let Captain America deal with this. Matt Murdock is not your problem. Be you, live life. Stop doing this. And Ben's like, no, this is your right, and all your friends, Peter, obviously his nephew, and your father had to go through these trials against Matt Murdock. Now it's your turn. You must go through this trial. It's your responsibility. So it's nice to have actual Ben say being a spider person is your responsibility because of your power. Because obviously it's a comment that is very much known in the spider mythos, but it was before Peter became Spider-Man that he heard it, and he just kind of takes it to heart. But here, it's actually said by Ben, no, you must be Spider-Woman, you must do this, do anything that's necessary to defeat Matt Murdock. So I really enjoyed that moment. It's a very solid issue for me. So I gave Spider-Gwen issue 28 4 stars. Love the artwork, love all the angst in this book. Really enjoy the coloring, that it's more with the Gwenum compared to the brighter aspect that we get to see with regular Spider-Woman. So Spider-Gwen issue 28 gets 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, this was an easy pick of the week for me, and that was Phoenix Resurrection issue 5. I've been a bit harsher with Phoenix Resurrection, but damn, this was a good last issue. And it really puts this whole Phoenix idea into full circle, where this is Jean saying goodbye, but hello again. And that's what the Phoenix is all about. It's about death, but then life. And you get so many analogies of that. And I love it's Jean having to say goodbye to her Scott, to her husband. And having, what was more important, having to say goodbye to the Phoenix and saying, I don't need this. I need to live. You giving me all this power made me not live. It made me, even when I was living, kind of dying. And I love that idea. The artwork is so clean here too. I think it's definitely the best artwork we've seen. I love the anguish that's going on in Jean's life when rain is pouring on her. She's seeing all these dead ones, all her loved ones that are dead. And she has to make this decision, and she does. I love the new costume. Really love that splash page of Jean's new look. Just a really great issue and a good ending, and I can't wait to see where X-Men Red takes this and Tom Taylor takes this. So Phoenix Resurrection issue 5 gets 4.5 stars, and that is my pick of the week and number 1 pick. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic You. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later.